that normally I would talk about photography, but today I want to look at things from a slightly different point of view. I will often speak about how photography is art, and I think that when you study art and the principles behind art, it can actually help improve your photography immensely. So that is more the perspective that I want to bring today. Even though what I'm going to talk about directly relates to the photography I've been doing during this trip in India, it is from a more artistic or more conventionally traditional artistic perspective. To get to the point, I have been making watercolor postcards that I hope to be sending to friends all around the world from this trip, and I've been painting specifically pictures that I've seen on this trip, and many of them are inspired by photographs that I've taken during this trip. And I can show you the side-by-side of those. However, what I want to talk about is the ones that I messed up, the ones that no one's going to be getting in the mail because I don't want to send that to anyone, the ones that didn't have to be a failure, quite honestly, but because I was rushed or I was lazy, I didn't do them properly. And I want to talk about why and how to do it differently. Also, I know that this principle applies 100% to my photography, and so everything I say here today, I am also speaking to myself, because there's a lot of photos that I won't be sharing with you guys, whether that is on Substack, where I'm writing a lot of articles currently, or on Instagram, or even here on YouTube. I will probably never share those photos. And there is always going to be a whole lot of photos that I'm not sharing. That's the thing about photography, especially if you're working digital photography. You have so many photos that you take, and even if you wanted to share them all, it's nearly impossible. I take hundreds, if not thousands. I'm sure I've taken thousands of photos on this trip. I can actually go and count them, find out. And I'm going to share a fraction of those with you. However, there are times that I feel like I could be sharing more if I had actually taken the time to apply even just this one principle more diligently. What I want to talk about are these postcards. What I have here is a collection of postcards that I've painted, and these are the tools that I've used to paint those postcards. I have a watercolor paintbrush, which is really cool because you put the water in the paintbrush, and so this is great for traveling, which I've been doing these on the go, and that has been a really great tool. And then this is my little mini palette that I've swatched all the colors here. And as you can see, I started using this palette for the first time on this trip, so I've done quite a bit of work. Actually, not that much. Anyway, you can see I've used it. And so this is like my toolkit for this project that I've been using. And this is a blank canvas. It's a pack of watercolor paper postcards. So it's actually got your address area, you put your stamps here and you write your message here. So it's already printed like this. And you put whatever you want on this side and you send your postcard. So this is a blank one. I've already written on all of these. Well, the ones I'm sending I've written. I'm going to put this one aside, but it's just an example for you to see exactly what is on the backs. So here I have all of my postcards. I'm going to pack this away. I have them all here, and this is maybe the one that is least directly inspired by something I saw, but it is mainly the colors of India, because it is such a vibrant nation and such a vibrant culture. I wanted to capture that in this one. And then I did some art over that. I'm not going to get into the details, but that one was probably the first idea that I had. It wasn't the first one I painted. This one is from a photo, and if you have been checking out the notes I posted on Substack, you will recognize this photo. Hopefully I've done a good job so you can recognize it, but there's that one. It feels very personal. It was one of the very first photos I took on this trip in the beginning. This one, I was literally driving, and we stopped in traffic for a minute or a couple seconds, and I took this out of the window with my phone. So it's not any amazing photo, but I love that moment of you're just in the middle wherever you're at, and it's that, I mean, it's people have over romanticized so much, and I don't want to use that word, but that's exactly what it was. It's romanticizing the moment. And I think before that was ever a thing, that was something I was doing. And in my childhood as well, that is very much something that I've always done. And I don't like calling it romanticizing. I think it's just appreciating the moment that you have rather than wishing something else, because every moment is so beautiful. So that was this one. This one is another photo, and it's funny, the crows in the background, I don't know if you can hear it right now, are making quite a bit of noise. But it was a photo of a crow on a beach. It was a really great moment, and at first I wasn't going to paint it, but then I was like, it's actually a great photo, so let me do that. This one, I'm sure you can all recognize this one, but it's an artistic take on the Indian flag. So it's really not a photo that I've taken, but it's again just relating to this beautiful nation that I'm visiting at the moment. And the last one I've done so far is this, and this was one that I debated a lot. I was like, do I do this? This seems like almost grotesque, and I'm sure a few of you watching are not going to appreciate this. However, it was a beautiful photo for me, and also the experience that I had at the fish market. You can see, I will link the article below, the post that I made on Substack that I wrote about this experience. I don't remember if I included this photo in the post, but I definitely wrote about just what it was like going to the fish market. And I think it's such a great part of daily life that I was able to experience here. And I'm sending this to someone who is an incredible chef. And so I was like, this is such a cool moment, and she would so appreciate that. But I was a little nervous. I actually messaged her. I'm like, do you like fish? Like, I'm like, if she doesn't like fish or doesn't like eating fish, this is going to be a problem. Anyway, she said she likes fish, so we'll see if she likes this postcard. But what I actually wanted to talk about today was not all of these postcards that I really, really love, and I'm very proud of all of them, but I want to talk about these two that I feel like I messed up, and I know exactly why I messed them up as well. So this first one I made in the time when I made this one and this one, so it was quite early on. I was making, and I was experimenting with techniques, because to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about watercolor. I've had a lesson or two, and I feel like every kid has had a watercolor palette in their lifetime, so I had that as well at some point. But I'm not very experienced when it comes to watercolor. It's not the main medium that I've used in my lifetime. So I'm learning, and that's been great. But I realized when I took the time to learn, and I made the effort, and I didn't just expect it to work out, I had incredible results like this, and like this, and like all of these. But these two specifically were like techniques I was experimenting with. Where this one, I was like, all right, let's take the colors of the Indian flag and just mush them together without a clear idea, without a clear plan. And honestly, I feel like there's potential here. I feel like I could still salvage it or do something. I don't know what though, and I don't know how I'm gonna do that. So I'm keeping it. I haven't given up on it yet. I'm keeping it, but I'm not satisfied. It lacked intentionality, and that's the principle I want to share today. Is intentionality in art is so crucial. People think that art comes naturally. It never does. True art is always intentional, and it needs to be intentional, or else it won't have that quality. And when I say quality, it's not about like expensive or like long lasting, but it's empty. Without intentionality, art becomes empty. And it is personally something I've always actually struggled with, is finding the intentionality behind my art. Because somewhere in my life, I got this belief that art was supposed to just be natural and flow rather than being intentional. And I think it's been a big learning moment. The second one that I have mixed feelings about is this one. I used some salt, which is a technique that you can use in watercolor, and I really enjoy it. I don't know if I did it very well on this one, but it kind of has a little bit of an effect, especially on this and here too, but I think it came out better on this. And it was a bit of an impressionistic thing that I did, but there was very little intentionality with this. I started out here just thinking, oh, let me make a circle and add salt to it. It happened to be yellow. Then I was attracted to the blue, so I did the blue. And I was like, oh, it's squiggly, that's kind of like the ocean, let me add sand. And then I was like, oh, that's an ocean picture. There's sand, there's sun, there's waves. And then I was bored, so I just added a couple drops, and then someone else knocked my picture. I didn't even do that. And that spread all of that. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is at the end, I couldn't see the message in this. It might be pretty, it might be whatever, but it didn't feel complete. Also, if you look at both of these, they had the least effort. And you can clearly see when you look at all of these pictures and then you look at these two, these were the quickest. They had the least effort involved, the least thought behind it. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned in intentionality is taking the time, stepping back, thinking, how am I going to do this down to the detail? And the thing about art flowing is when that type of intentionality, that type of thought process becomes so ingrained, so second nature, that it really does flow out of you. But you have to practice it and you have to learn to think and plan. So as you can see, I have not written anything on either of these. Unfortunately, this one is actually also upside down because I wasn't planning, I was just going for it. I didn't actually put that intentionality into it. So it's actually an upside down picture if you look at the back. This one doesn't really have a top and bottom, so it's hard to say that it's upside down. But I won't be sending these, at least on this trip, I won't be sending these to anyone. I do hope to maybe make 2 more postcards if I have time, but I'm 1 week out from leaving India, so I have to send these. I have to find a post office, get the stamps, put them in the mail. They're all written already. So really, I just want to say this again. I hope that you can make art intentionally. I hope that you can find your inspiration and yes, draw from what you're feeling and what comes naturally. Then when you come to the point of translating that into something that you want to share with the rest of the world, you are able to do so intentionally. You're able to take the time, build the patience, build a process that speaks to you and speaks to those around you, but simply just have a method and continue to develop that method. And that doesn't have to keep you stuck in one way of doing things, not at all. I think art is very dynamic, and intentionality in art should also be very dynamic, but it is still necessary. It is still a crucial part of art is being intentional, thinking through every step, knowing exactly what you're doing, why you're doing, how you're doing, planning ahead. Just diving into something and making whatever can turn out okay in the end. And I've had many projects turn out okay like that. But the best projects are the ones where I knew step by step, and I had flexibility. There are many things I change along the way, but I knew exactly how, and I took the time and I patiently, deliberately created that work of art that I was trying to do. And to draw this back to photography, on this trip I've done a lot of street photography. I've taken photos, a lot of architectural photography, primarily looking at different places of worship, so temples, mosques, churches especially, also shrines and different, just how people use the things they've built to bring honor to whatever deities that they worship. And in that, I can easily tell which photos I took a moment to breathe and really take the photo I meant to take, rather than I'm walking past, I'm snapping a picture, and sometimes that can work out. But really the best photos are where I stood for a minute, And this is literally the process I would go through. I stood for a minute, especially when it comes to architecture, stood for a minute, looked at the whole building, looked at a couple angles if I can, and then zoomed in on something intentional. Found that one thing that stands out and photographed that. Not just I cropped a picture, but I chose an element, I zoomed in on it, and that became the shot. And when it comes to street photography, I know that there were the moments where I was able to stand still. And a lot of this takes courage. Because if you're in a big, bustling, busy street and you're standing in the middle of this chaos and you already stand out because you've got white skin and you're also taller than many people around you. Thankfully, I have dark hair. I do appreciate that a lot. I have dark hair, dark eyes, but my skin is very pasty, very light. And so I quickly stand out anywhere I go here. However, so it takes courage to stand still in that moment where you're already standing out, lift up this pretty bulky camera that I'm carrying around with me, pause, let the movement around me flow, pick a frame, and wait for my subject to either enter that frame or to position themselves in the way I want in that frame. And if you really, really take the time, you could sit there for a good few minutes, even an hour or two, like depending on your setting, surroundings, where you're at, to get that shot that you really want. And I have to admit, I didn't do more than a couple minutes anywhere. And I think that that does take away from some of the things that I did. But also being on the move, there was a necessity for me to keep moving. So just for this trip specifically, I didn't have the ability to maybe stand still or stop in certain places for as long as I might have wanted, because I wanted to see so much, I wanted to do so much, and there's value in that. But I know the difference between the photos where I was able to be intentional and the photos where I just took a picture because I was like, that's nice, and just moved on. And those are okay pictures, but the really good ones or the really brilliant ones are the ones where I took a moment and I dissected it before reconstructing it and actually taking the photo. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to know more about the photos that I've been taking and the things that I'm sharing from this trip in India right now, you can have a look at my Instagram or my Substack. I'll link them both below. And if you want to see some more videos, because I've also done a bit of videos during this time, even though it's not my main media that I share, but I will be sharing some perspective of what I've seen my time here in Kerala, India.